I've had this on my computer screen all day. It's kind of crazy. So this is BA, but oh man, honestly, maybe coming to a day and age where learning to do TA is gonna save your life, bro. I'm genuinely never ever gonna book flights or fly if I ever see. Every time I get on a plane, I'm checking is this underlying stock a resistance or not, because this is crazy, bro. Ain't no way we're getting such a disastrous crash on an airline, bro. It's a Boeing 787. What happened in India today should not have happened. I'm telling you, I bet it's an inside job, bro. I bet there's some fucker with a fat short open, and then because the things that happen, engine failing, landing gear getting
Oni waffle,
stuck,
oni waffle diavolo.
should not have happened, man.
Oni waffle diavolo.
Right.
Oro.
Yo, hello, brother. Nice to try and talk.
Ciao ragazzi, aspetta.
Ah, uh, your mic's unmuted, bro. Just in case you're talking about something private. Nasir. Yeah, I'm good, brother. How are you? Yeah, genuinely, bro.
Gigli,
It's
gigli.
like it's terrible, man. It's crazy.
The goal ce n'ho?
Right. Um. Okay, let's go to Bitcoin. Right. That's rest in peace to everyone that died here today, man. Cause this should not have happened in today's day and age.
Did you see there is one survivor from the plane
Bro,
crash,
he
by
said
the
he
way?
jumped out. I don't know how he
What the
survived
fuck?
jumping out,
What the
but
fuck?
that's
You
crazy.
see him just walking, yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And the crazy part is that they didn't drive the ambulance up to him. They made him walk all that way to the ambulance. I
Yeah,
was like,
no, no,
what the
but
hell?
like you have when the explosion happens, you have like the fireball
Yeah,
and like how can someone survive something?
yeah, no, bro, this is actually ridiculous. Um, that's the hand of God if I've ever seen one, man. Don't know what happened there. I don't know. I've heard of people surviving like failed parachute attempts. Like there's a story of there was a woman who went skydiving, and there was one person who survived because they even though their parachute failed, they fell through like the canopy of really tall trees, right? So that sort of like slowed their fall down just enough to where they weren't like just fatality on by the time they landed.
Yeah.
And another one was this is the luckiest thing I've heard is someone who fell from an airplane, no parachute, or the parachute failed, one or the other, but they landed on like a like a fire ant hill, and because all the fire ants stung her at once, that adrenaline kept her heart going. And then by the time they got to the hospital, that's the only reason her heart was still going, so they could like survive. And she made like a full recovery. So honestly, people survive some of the craziest like circumstances. But it's also
Yeah.
like any moment could be a last, right? It's kind of crazy to think about. Like I saw a video of like two British people, like I'm just filming before they left, and the next thing you know, it's like they're wiped off. It's ridiculous. It's crazy, man. Yeah. But yeah, definitely never ever. Every time I'm about to get on a plane, I'm definitely going to be checking shit like this because you can't leave anything like this to chance. It's ridiculous. You rejected off, last year's uh, mid of the area where sellers were in control, right? That's what that is. And then, of course, the deep crab 1.618, aggressive buying was not being rewarded in terms of TA. Now I'm speaking, of course, but all signs of weakness, and all of a sudden, there's a reason for why the stock should, collapse by however many percent is collapsed. From here, that is down. Yeah, 8%. It's ridiculous. Okay. Anyway, let's look at Bitcoin first. So the thing we were talking about last time, right, which is the shark to the bullish 5-0 scenario, has hit on Bitcoin. There's your breakout. There's your retest of the trend line, right? As long as this holds, I'm not going to be thinking about lower. Should we go lose this and turn it to resistance? Then back towards 101 is what I'd be looking for, right? That's your next key supports down over here. But if this holds, you do also have a cumulative structure, right? So they could just use the fear of the potential attack, right? Probably a probable attack, let's say. They could use the fear of that to just drive the prices up. And that's a scenario that I think could see play out. Now, we haven't hit the 886 on the index chart, but you look at any normal chart. So, for example, if you go to Binance, right? Here's Binance. The Binance spot chart. We look at the structure that's taken place. So there is your start, right? There's your X. And I think you could probably take it from there, to be honest. But if you did that, it's not quite an 886, so we're going to take it from here. You have your 487, right? There's your A point. If I was to turn these off once, 1, 2, 3, right? There's your drop, right? 1.618 is what we're looking at, and this is that again 5th of June when we did that stream. I did it really late now after coming back from the restaurant. This is when we were saying, okay, look, we have hit the 1.618. If we close above, we bid, right? So we hit the 1.618, we close above. That's why we open positions on that stream, right, for the challenge account, and then we've had a nice move up. We have now hit the shark, right? So remember, bearish sharks. The first thing you should be thinking about is if you get a pullback, I'm looking for a bullish 5.0. Now, technically, a bullish 5.0, you're looking for a 0.5 retracement. But now, this is again where we use a bit of our brain cells. If we are in a strong trend, right, one of the first things we learn in Fibs is what if in a strong trend, you know, you want buys realistically coming in at the shallow golden pocket, right? So if I do this now, here's your low to your high. Where are we bouncing from right now? Well, there is your 382. Right, the shallow golden pocket is where we are. So if you, especially above the 298 if you can hold above this, I think that's your pullback and you go, right? If you get one more dump, I would not want it to go past the 0.5. I don't even want the 618. Right, just give us the 0.5, hold it and go. That's what I'm hoping happens. No, but here is. So from XA, again, that is to a specific point. But if I was to just do this now, and we just go and line it up, right? There, XAB, there's your C, your 382, again, that's hit. Right, we've seen the 382 has hit. So we cannot be surprised if we genuinely go and put in a new high off this low, okay? Because if you are truly bullish and your trend is to be believed, your trend is strong, then you do not want deep value golden pockets. You do not want the deep values, right? You do not want anything past the 0.5, technically speaking. Because you want, what you're saying is, okay, the trend is flipped to the upside. The last lower high that led to the lower low has been taken out. It's been flipped to support. If the demand is going to come in, it should come in over here. Right, so if this holds and the 382 is the low, that'd be amazing, right? Just go up to new highs from here. Just leave out all the, if anyone is sidelined, this would be max pain because now everyone's been shaken out and then market just goes against them, right? If not, one more flush, I would not want to breach the 0.5, right? The 0.5 would be the max wick down that I wanted. And again, the 0.5 is around 105,454. So should we get one more drop, let it be to there, wick up, maybe like local smiley face and go. That's what I want to see for now, right? But that smiley face scenario we talked about, right? And this is not the bigger smiley face, which is the bigger smiley face is something we said, something I said should happen if we are now looking for a normal cycle scenario, right? Which is extended chop into the summer and then perhaps midway through, halfway through Q3, we start running into the end of the year, right? That's a more normal cycle scenario, sorry, not extended. But that would then give us the higher price targets of, maybe 150k plus. I'd only expect 150k plus if we genuinely had that drop down. We had more time for like more higher time frame accumulation, right? 150, 165, so on and so forth. But if we just get a lower time frame smiley face over here, right? Not lower time frame, but more local smiley face over here, and they just send it off this, then that for me is still on track for a blow off top scenario. And for a blow off top scenario, we've talked about this before, but if I go and turn the diagonals on, which one is it? It should be this one then. 1 second. If I go ahead and turn the diagonals on for a blow off top scenario, there, then what I said was for a blow off top, as long as you do not lose this, is fine, right? And again, resistance, support for now, as long as this holds, as long as this zone holds, what was once very big resistance, right? Also support in the past is once again going to be support. And again, you're still on track for that intersection by the end of June towards 120k, right? So for now, I'm not going to rule a new all-time high, maybe even close to 120k by end of June out of the table. But should we now go down and turn this back into resistance, I think that's going to be pretty peak. And in that case, I would not be surprised if it did actually end up getting a bigger flush, right? So hold this, basically, that's what I'm looking for. As long as we hold this, blow off top scenario is still alive. Because if you get back below this as resistance, it's going to be that much more work for the buyers to come in. And by the time we actually get back above, this intersection might be missed, right? In which case we'd have to look for different intersections, around 135 by August perhaps, or 142 by like end of July. But we would miss the window for this one, and this is the one that I'm currently eyeing because this is the nearest intersection to us, right? So fingers crossed, we actually don't get a big drop and we just send it, right? That's what I'm hoping for, which is why I'm still positioned the way I am on the challenge account. One thing I realized was hype, right? A head short did fill for me. Because if you guys remember this, right here, this is, we talked about this a while back. The alerts didn't go off, it just triggered me. But we did hit the ABCD 1.272, right? I'm watching it for now to see, you know, how the 4-hour, the daily is going to be reacting, so on and so forth. But we could have one more spike up to the deep crab 1.618 here, right? But somewhere around here, if we do see now some sort of distributive structure coming in locally for hype, this could mark like a more local top before we get maybe like a deeper flush finally, and then like resume higher, right? Perhaps we see something like this. If not, then like I said, as long as you keep holding that shallow golden pocket, and this is why I'm giving that thesis for the 382 to 0.5. This is something we talked about, right? Look, this is your shallow retracement golden pocket in terms of your fifth speed resistance fan. You haven't, ever since you flipped trend to up to an uptrend, you have never ever gone and close below that. Lowest you've gone is to the liquidity rate, realistically, right? So, you know, it's, and every single moment of this, when you look at this, people are like, oh, it should drop, we're putting like, you know, there's external liquidity, but it never does, because the asset is in demand. If the asset is in demand, buyers are going to bid. That's what we've seen here, right? So the same logic is what I'm applying to Bitcoin and all the other assets that have shocks right now, right? We talked about this. We talked about this a while ago, how many things we're putting in the shark structure, right? I mentioned it first here in the stream, and then I put it to Twitter as well. But as long as, you know, we get the bullish 5-0s and the bullish 5-0s hold, like, we'll be fine, right? Like, I will again point fingers back to Aptos, right? When this 5-0 was happening in Aptos, people were saying, oh, it's over, right? It's over. We've taken out the low. The trend has shifted, so on and so forth. We should, you know, go back down towards like lower levels, so on and so forth. But did we? No. We hit the bearish shock. We hit the bullish 5-0 just above the 0.5, right? 0.495, and we carried on from there. The fact that you shift the trend on the daily does not matter, right? So hopefully something like this is what I'm hoping happens over here. Now if it doesn't, it doesn't, right? It's what it is. But you know, you gotta take a bet according to what you believe is gonna happen. And hopefully for now, the thesis is the blow up top is still on track, which is why I'm positioned the way I am. But Bitcoin, if we go back into this, as long as we are holding the key support level, we're not breaking down back below the trend line, I'd be looking for a move back to the upside, right? If we break back below, then perhaps the 618 in that case, sure, right? But below the 618, I think 101.369 gets hit once again, and then we'd have to, maybe they take the lows out and then, like, you know, reclaim and go, something like this perhaps, right? But as long as we're above this, that's a trendline breakout retest, right? That's the last lower high that led to the lower low has been taken out, and a higher low could be being put in for all we know, right? Especially if the daily closes like this in 7 hours. Of course, 7 hours, a lot can happen, but we'll have to see how this daily closes. Today is this, so when's the weekly close now? A couple of days time, 3 days. That weekly close, that's something now. The weekly candle isn't the nicest, right? The weekly candle isn't the nicest, locally speaking. However, again, this is why you know, price action analysis is so important. If you take a look at this, and we were to just do this, right? So I'm going to put this down for the monthly. I'm going to put this down for the 3 months, right over here. And I'm going to put this down for the quarterly. Yeah, that's fine. And 6 months, obviously, the same line applies. If you look at it from that regard, and actually, let's go to the weekly too. And I'm going to put this down for the weekly, okay? Hopefully what you see what we're doing is, even though we're getting a nasty SFP off the high right now, for sure, right? That is unquestionable. We're getting a very nasty SFP. Your last month's value area high is what's providing the resistance right now, right? You can see that. You know, right now we have huge volume. The delta is still positive, but we're getting an SFP. Right now there is buyer absorption going on. That can't be denied, right? You're below, sorry, your entire value area, your point of control, you're below all of that. By all means, this is a seller controlled, buyer absorbed candle, right? But, and should the candle close like this, of course, feel free to take hedges, right? Especially if you're already in a hedge, right? That's even plus. Bitcoin hedge short, anything like this, feel free to take hedges should the weekly close like this. However, also do note, right? If you look at this, and we look at this in terms of, again, buyers versus sellers, what is happening is, obviously we have quarterly, we have triannual, we have monthly and weekly, right? You are currently going sideways at an area where you have never ever in Bitcoin's history closed any candle body closes above before. This is the only time you've closed and sustained candle body closes above this level. So when you think about it like that, it then becomes very hard to stay bearish, right? Because what you're saying is, even the last time, December 2024, you were here, anything above that weekly, right? Anything above 104,392, you're saying the supply was so much greater than the demand. The sellers were in so much more control than the buyers were, that any time you wicked into here, they closed you below this area. They didn't let you close above. Complete and utter seller dominance. But now, that is not the same. When you come here, look, sellers have attempted once, twice, thrice, 4 times. Sellers have attempted to close candles beneath this level, where they were in complete control before. But now if you take a look, they have not succeeded in doing so far. So the area where buyers couldn't close any candle bodies above before is now an area where sellers are struggling to close candle bodies below. And this is on the weekly time frame, right? So as long as we are above at least this zone, again, it's very hard to remain bearish, right? Because yes, we might get local chart pair, but that's to be expected, right? We're at all-time highs. There's going to be people trying to sell, people trying to open short positions. The question is ultimately who wins, right? Just because this one candle's come in here does not automatically mean that, okay, the sellers have won. Because this candle could close like this, you could have one more drop into this area, you could close above, right? And ultimately the buyers might win out the let's say the overall war in this area. If that happens, we're going to be shooting up higher again. Right, so this is one very simple way to look at things. You are currently going sideways at an area. You are consolidating at an area. You are closing candles above at an area where you have never ever done so in Bitcoin's history before. Right? That is extremely bullish. Again, sellers over buyers in this area before. So a supply over demand in this area before. But this right now is telling you buyers over sellers, demand over supply. That is not something I would short on. Because the simple fact of the matter is, if you were to boil this entire thing down, simply looking at your key areas right now, to which side is in control of the market, in terms of your actual key levels and data, majority of this area, right, this area where you haven't had any kind of order closes before, it is the buyers. The buyers are the ones showing the edge right now here locally on the macros, right, on this area. Below this, then you have an argument for sellers again. But above this, buyers are the ones showing strength. That's an area where sellers had done so in the past. If you were to now go and put, of course, the only key level you are below right now, apart from the May previous month footprint chart level, right? Not in terms of order flow, but in terms of actual key levels. What are you below currently? Well, if you open up 12-month buy seller zones, you are going to be below your 2024 12-month seller zone high. That's the only thing you're below, right? People will give a lot of significance to this wick, and that is fine. You can if you want, but don't forget this was something put in during price discovery where, again, there's no guarantees this is the top yet. Again, if you close the week below this, you can try to go for a hedge, right? In fact, you can try to go for a hedge based off lower time frame confluence. For example, if you get this hourly back test now, right, and you see it is a rejection, you have this area, and you see that hourly rejects, then you can open up a scalp to swing mindset head short to lower prices, right? But if the week ends up closing above this, I think next week we can very easily just carry on going to the upside. I'm not factoring any macro influences into the market right now, right? Because you cannot factor in black swans into TA. I'm simply speaking in terms of a technical analyst when I say all this. Black swan might kill us, sure. But if I try to incorporate some sort of black swan into the TA, then we're always going to be, oh, but what if this happens? And there's always going to be that, like, uncertainty, that doubt, that fear in pulling the trigger, right? So I'm strictly just going to stick to doing TA and explaining everything in terms of TA, right? Macro influences I'm not going to consider when I'm doing the TA. Are they going to affect the market? Sure they are, right? Macro effects, what happens in the real world is definitely going to affect the markets, but that is not something I can then sort of weave into TA itself, right? So if we close below this, then sure, you've now set up you've set up precedents for why some macro event could nuke us lower because you've closed below a key level, right? But we haven't closed below on the weekly yet, right? And the daily has just broken down today. So if you get that bearish back test, then you can enter a hedge short, and in that particular situation, then you can also enter the hedge short thinking, okay, we're below a key level. If they wanted to do some fuckery in the real world to mess with the charts, it makes sense to do so here. Right, you can enter with that mindset now when you open that hedge. But otherwise, you know, I look at this on the weekly, I look at this on sort of the 2 weeks even, right? There we go. You're closing candles on the 2 weeks, look, above an area, even when you look at this on the 2 weeks, this is the highest you've had candle body closes before. That is you're closing candles now above, right? It's been a month. You've closed candles above the areas where you just haven't had any kind of body closes above before. So until this gets violated, there is the only thing that I'd be worried about is the fact you're back below 2024 12-month seller zone high. That's it. And again, set your alerts up, right? And don't just do it for the index chart, do it for your exchange as well, because exchanges will have slightly different prices, right? But should you go and bearishly backtest to your seller zone high, right? Then open that hedge short. Okay, I will be doing the same. There's nothing wrong with hedging. Hedging is what you do to protect your downside or your upside, depending on, you know, whether you're net long or short, right? Even if you wanted to open a hedge short right now, right? If you're really, really worried, you could do that, and your invalidation is, should you go and get back above here to support, basically, right? Because if you do that, you have no reason to be in a hedge short. As long as you're below this, you have a reason to be in a hedge short. So you can open one right now if you wanted to. But just understand what you're opening. It is a hedge. It is a scalp to swing. Okay? You're not going to go all in with the entire portfolio unless you are genuinely thinking we get some sort of massive flush, right? In that case, that would be a play you take individually, right? Because I'm not going to be doing that. If I open any shorts, it's going to be a hedge. Because many, like we talked about, many of these alts, many of these coins, right, even the general market as a whole, I think is geared up for a nice move up, right? The structure-wise is there. The question is, do we get follow through? But I'm positioning myself, which is basically me saying, okay, I put my money on the fact that I think we get follow through soon, right? That's why I'm positioned the way I am. So that is Bitcoin. Okay, let me keep checking back to the chat as well. New fair unlocked, yeah, for sure, bro. All is luck, yeah, for sure, bro. Yeah, if nukes are threatened, I can see that, bro, for sure, yeah. Yeah, yeah, literally, I didn't even realize you could bet. Like I saw the Donald Trump versus like Kamala Harris one, right, on Polymarket. I thought that was a one-off thing. I didn't realize you could genuinely bet on whatever you wanted to. That's crazy. Yeah, but genuinely, like you could use that as a hedge if you wanted to, right? If you're long, but you think a war could break out, then you could, you know, hedge with thinking, oh, like I think, you know, attack's gonna happen, like Leo's been doing, right? That's genuinely a strategy, not even lying. 10 hour chain on a Friday attack. Come on, bro. That's crazy. Oh, that's amazing. Gotta love this space, man. Right. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Let's take a look at ETH. Let's see what ETH's doing. That looks good for now. Anyway, ETH literally genuinely holding above on the daily. Right, you could literally just do this. No kind of body closes here, there. Right, you're at the mid for now. There's your daily seller zone, right there. And as long as you don't go and turn that mid back into resistance, you're fine on ETH, right? Have we hit? Let's look at ETH on the key inflection areas and historical price ranges first. There we go. So again, rejection off where? Very beautiful line. This is your impulse, right? Historical price range impulse from 2022, right? This is your 2022 historical price range impulsive move. The bear market impulse, the mid of that's where you rejected off of for now. This is why I was telling you guys, don't trade in that range we were in, right? This one. Unless you were going to take the bet at the key inflection area, otherwise don't trade because you haven't hit a key level yet. So now we have. Now it wouldn't be surprising if they did decide ETH deserves one more flush before going higher. I could see something like that happening. If again we go and lose that level. If not, then you know we could very easily just see that. Right? So we had that daily seller zone. We had that historical price range mid, right? In this case, the historical price range impulse mid. So that's what's giving us that rejection here on Ethereum. But as long as we're above this key inflection area, honestly, we're fine. Even if we raid, as long as we reclaim, we're fine, right? We just can't go and turn this into resistance. 2, 4, whatever that is. If you turn that into resistance, then you wouldn't be surprised we've done another big dump, right? So we just can't do that. Here, back below monthly fair value gap mid, right? We haven't even hit this zone here yet high. If they want to spike this up higher once more, they easily can. But if you set alerts up for the monthly fair value gap mid, If you start seeing like, like again, you can very easily take scalp to swing mindset trades off this to either direction now, right? Because you've taken liquidity from the top side. So if this is now seller stepping in here, you see that, then you can try and take that scalp to swing mindset short back down towards your other levels, right? And maybe finally we actually go rate those lows, perhaps, right? If we are due a macro flush, maybe then we go rate the lows and then go higher. But again, otherwise, right, if you don't get a macro flush, then reclaim and go is what I'd be looking for here on Ethereum, right? Just hold this level, hold the daily seller zone, and then just send it higher, basically, right? As long as you hold that range highs, you're fine. And honestly, I do think that would be max pain. Think about it, right? You've hit resistances. There's all this macro uncertainty coming in because of the news, because of the tariff drama, so on and so forth. And then if all you get is 2 measly daily red candles followed by literal just like, massive buybacks, massive pullbacks, everyone's going to be shaken out. Everyone's going to be sidelined, right? Max pain scenario, in my opinion, would just be descended from here. Does it happen? Probably not, right? Probably not. But I can hope, right? So we'll see. But has Ethereum also hit? Let me check 1 sec. No, Ethereum has not hit a shark or anything like this. So what do we have? We have this. Okay, I take it back. We have hit a shark. Ethereum, there's your 618. That's your basically a 1.414, right? There's your liquidity rate of the shallow retracement golden pocket. And then therefore 1.13 is the extension we're looking for. So yeah, I'm just going to pin this to the 1.618 right there. We have hit a shark here on Ethereum. There we go. Right, that's a shark on Ethereum. This can go up to a 2.24. This has to be a 1.13. So this is your shark. So if we are going to get a deeper flush, again, you have hit one more flush to T1. And again, if you're bullish, remember, you don't even want that 0.5 or lower. Hopefully this is you don't break below this basically on Ethereum. Hold, go. That'd be amazing. Max pain, I'm telling you, this would be max pain because people would be shaken out, right, with the macro uncertainty. Many people are still sidelined, hoping for a bigger quote-unquote pullback to jump into positions. So if this holds, you feel the daily buy seller zone, for example, right over here, right, and that's it. That's the duration of your pullback, and it just sends from there. That would absolutely fuck everyone up. They're going to be forced to chase back higher. So I'm hoping this is the scenario that plays out, right? Again, we'll see. But yeah, right here for Ethereum, if you're going to get a reaction, you had the first T1. You had the T1 for the shark. If you lose this, then you got T2, right? And then if you lose that yet, then we have the primary projection, which would then take us back into that zone we're talking about right over here, right? But now, if T1 holds, there's no point thinking about this, right? So let's hope that T1 holds. So yeah, let's see. Okay, so that's ETH. What about Sol? Sol, again, same thing. Last lower high that led to the lower low has been taken out on the daily. Weekly, we already know we had broken trend. Oh, had we broken trend? The last high low that led to the high. Yes, we had, right? We had broken trend on the weekly, but to the downside. But we have also broken trend back to the upside now, right? The last lower high that led to the lower low has been taken out, and a high low is in the process of being put in. Not only that, but also the daily lower high, or rather the daily downtrend, right over here, where you had the last high low that led to the high taken out. The last lower high that led to the low has also been taken out. So again, the daily is also trying to shift back into an uptrend, while the weekly has already put some sort of macro high low in. So if that is it, then the weekly is already confirmed we're back into an uptrend, right? So if that is the case, then again, all we're looking for is a high low here on Solana on the daily. If that happens, you've confirmed a weekly high low. You've also confirmed that daily high low, and I would think that just absolutely sends you higher. Right? Again, you're back above. You're still above this trend line. Look, you're still fighting to stay above it, right? Resistance, 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 support, 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 resistance, and now once again support. As long as you're above this, Solana, I'd be looking to go higher. So if that happens to Sol, in fact, let's go here. And again, Solana in terms of historical price ranges, we know we hit the 886, right? This right here, we hit the shark on Solana, on that M shape, right? We hit the shark. So with that shark hit, have we hit the T1? Yeah, we have, again, if you flip T1 into support, right? There's your type 1. If you flip that T1 into support, T2's next, and above T2, you have this, right? Your historical price range mid above lines up with the 1.618. You're gonna get this sooner than you think, most likely. And ultimately, what you don't want to do here is lose that line, right? If this line is lost, then we can see we can expect bigger pullbacks down towards the 130s again. But as long as this is held, we have again local smiley faces coming in, right? Something like this perhaps. But that is Solana. But again, look, weekly, last lower high that led to the lower low has been taken out and a higher low is attempting to come in. If this is the higher low, right, which again, we've got reasons for why that could be, right? You filled key areas, you're above yearly levels, and the daily also confirms, yeah, we're back in an uptrend, right? We're back in an uptrend. Then what you're looking for is now a break into this next key inflection area. Flip that key inflection area into support, right? I.e. turn the T2 into support. If T2 is support, that 1.618 is literally your next target. So we've looked at BTC, we looked at ETH, we looked at SOL, and what we actually see here is that we cannot be surprised if things just send from here without giving us a decent pullback. We cannot be surprised, right? Yes, we're at resistance, but the bullish structures haven't been violated yet. What's more, for example, if we have there, so again, we've hit a shallow, right? So that's a 5.8, very, very close to a 6.18, right? Meaning a 7.86 first for a Gartley, right? For one more spike up, that could give you like another Gartley to like a higher low perhaps on the pullback to the 6.18, and then, well, is one no, the crab isn't going to be worth it unless we get slightly deeper. So if we do get deeper, let's say we get like the 6.18 or something over here, then that's where that crab would really shine on Solana. Let me turn this off for now because it's not validated yet. But we looked at BTC, we looked at SOL, we've looked at ETH, and they all look good. Locally speaking, they all look good. There are areas where arguments can be made for either side, right? The easy option for me to say would be, oh, we look like we could go up, but we also look like we could come down. That's not TA, right? My thesis now is that the blow of top comes in. I hope we do not ever break down below this diagonal, and I hope we go up. Any breakdowns below this needs to be wicked up. That's what I hope to send us up higher. Max fear capitulation to just send it up. That's what I want to see, right? But we'll see what happens here. We're grinding up along the key diagonals at the end of the day. So that's that. Okay, let's now take a look at some of the coins, right? Let's look at Aptos. Aptos still holding the area, right? This hasn't even hit the shark yet, right? It's having a pullback. It's not even hit the shark yet. The last lower high that led to the lower low again has been taken out, right? It's been taken out. Therefore, again, we cannot be surprised if you know, the high low comes in, let's say somewhere around here, and then we go up, right? But the shark hasn't been hit yet on this, okay? That shark is higher, so the target for this is literally still intact. The only thing we need to do is go reclaim that B to then have a shot at going towards that, you know, 886 to 1.13 area in Aptos. But again, what we're saying is we've now identified the diagonal, and this is something we can do. Remember, identify. I'm not going to say because this will go on YouTube, but you guys know what to do with the diagonals, right? If you've identified the one that flips trend. So if I place it down right over here, and I'm also going to go ahead and place down this here. We've hit the front run of the 618, right? The 586 has been tagged. So if we can go and reclaim the 0.5, I want to see this now just go higher. If you're going to get one more drop, just don't get below the 618. That's what I asked for right now. Even if you get below the 618, it's not the end of the world, right? Looking at the macro, but in terms of now maintaining structure, maintaining trend, I would not want this to get back below the 618. Right? Actually, wait. Let's leave those on. I'm just going to turn it invisible for now. And what we'll do is we'll see in terms of an ABCD, right? What have we done? So basically 0.5 has been hit. So a 2.0 would take you up towards, and again, remember, if you're bullish, you know, you want wicks to the 0.5, eaten up real quick. You don't want that 618 for no reason. Right? You don't want it for no reason. But we could have this play out, right? We have a really nice PRZ here where you could go, you know, again, have another pullback, maybe one more high low that absolutely sends you higher. Something like that could happen. That's of course given that the 0.5 holds. It might not hold, right? But right now the reaction is coming in around that 0.5. So if it holds, great, right? We have another wave structure trying to take us up towards that shark extreme. Another thing, of course, is this Gartley, right? The deep Gartley that we know, or rather, hang on, this Gartley over here, that's just about front ran this structure, right? This structure that's just about front ran the Gartley, and of course the Gartley already hit. If you actually consider like any other extreme points, right? The Gartley would have already hit, so that would have been a deep Gartley on its own, right? But this is the one we're going to be going with, just because the B point matches up with this one, right? If you consider this one, then the B point of this Gartley, which is right away, which is pretty close to the 618, right? You're still holding that B point as support as well. I believe you would have hit the T2. If I do this, so from A, we just go down to the low. Yeah, you've hit T1, right? You hit T1, you had a pullback. So if we get a higher low, then we're looking for that target up to the T2 again, of this harmonic bigger. So the things are lining up for Aptos as well, right? So Aptos looks good. We've identified that. Let me check back to the chat and then we can proceed. Polkadot looks very similar to Aptos, to be honest. Look at that in a minute. AVAX, just look at it. The structure is great. The structure is still there. I'm going to use another chart for this. I think it's this one. There we go. The main thing here is we stay above this level here, right? That's your weekly buy zone right over there. As long as you're staying above that, you do have higher time frame accumulative structure taking place in this area on AVAX. Again, do not forget how significant of a level AVAX is at, right? Macro 886, you have your deep crab, right? There's your deep crab 1.618, 2.618. You have your macro 886s in terms of from this high to this low. So very, very significant levels have been hit. And AVAX is another one which on the weekly, the last lower high that led to the lower low has been taken out and a high low is being put in as we speak. And I'm under the belief the high low is already in. I think that was the high low, right? So if this low is defended, again, we can take a look. If that low is defended, what else was here? We know what else was here. There was XABCD patterns, right? There we go. So we had a Gartley, right? There you go. There's the 786, the deep Gartley, the butterfly 1.414 was probably over here somewhere as well. So under the 786, hang on, that's the same one. Let me do this. So bit by bit, not this one didn't hit, right? So we can forget about this bad for now. This one, 618 to the 786. There's your Gartley, right? We know a Gartley hit during this dump, which is one of the things, one of the other reasons we added AVAX down at this low. We know a deep Gartley has also been hit, right? 0.886. So what I should do is just mark out the deep Gartley. There you go. The deep Gartley has been hit, right? What else? There is a butterfly, 1.272. The hop of the butterfly is the 1.414. So we know the hop of the butterfly was hit, and again that was also vindicated. That was respected. So we now already have a PRZ zone which has been respected and we're above, right? And of course we have that normal Gartley just above as well. So again, we can see we had a lot of bullish M shapes that have hit, right? We've hit T1s. We're probably having a little pullback after hitting T1. But now should this again be the high low? Right, should this be the high low? Again, look, even on the daily, the last lower high that led to the lower low has been taken out. So you're looking to put a high low in, bullish market structure. This is something we talked about ages ago, right? Here is so AVAX is another one that again that hit the 1.618, right, extensions, right? Again, the 886 has not been hit yet. There's the 886, and should you get above the 886, you have the 1.13. All the way up over here. And so on track. So again, all we need to do really is go above the B to increase your probability of going there. But again, if the high low is put in over here, you could very easily do this, and then go. Right, so let me lock that and turn it off for now. But on the macro, as long as you're above 17.53, all is well. Right, which is a bit lower, but this is why now I'm talking now in terms of spot specifically. Right, I've got AVAX spot for the challenge account, AVAX spot, SUI spot, Aptos spot, Say spot. None of those are leveraged. okay? Because those are my high conviction bags. I'm willing to just buy spots and hold. I'm not getting chopped up on these, right? If you think about it, I'd rather hold this until I lose some money here than get out too early, have no position, and miss out on a literal generational entry. Because that's what we're looking at right now. How often do you think you get the chance to buy AVAX at these lows when you consider how high it's been in the past? For us, it looks like, yeah, it's often right now, but that's because we've been here when that low period was happening, right? But once, consider the scenario where if the bullish scenario does play out and we pump up, all the people that jump in late is going to have missed that entry. It's going to be a while since they see entries like this again. My target, my hopeful target for AVAX for now still remains between $81 and $83, right? That's the primary projection of this deep crab. The guard leader 886, right? So that is a good, basically 300% move up, right? If you guys want to trade AVAX, then you can look for independent, scalp the swing longs based off these key levels, or you can just open a swing. Right, you can just open a swing as well, stop loss below, and you're looking to try and you can then take profits at the 382, at the 618. Take profits if you see weakness, size up if you see strength, so on and so forth. You can have a leverage bag running alongside the spot. I'm not saying you have to follow exactly what I do for the challenge account, right? But for AVAX, for the challenge account, I'm not running leveraged at all. I'm just holding spot. This is one of my higher conviction plays, right? AVAX. Not because I believe in it as a project fundamentally with all my heart or anything, simply because the TA is too good to ignore. That's all I care about. Everything else is just going to be cherry on top. I'm at an area where managing risk is super easy, right? We bid at the drop, at the box, right? And now we just hold. That's it. We just hold this until either the entire play is invalidated, basically, right? We go and lose $17 below the 886, so on and so forth. Or we actually start get the move up now and go towards our targets. $83, I'm hoping we get. Anything above that is a bonus. So if we go towards the 618, right? That'd be amazing if we got towards that 618. That 618 is the T2 of this macro bat. After all this type 2 returns, I would hope we get to that 618, right? Here's the hopeful area. Anything above that, bonus. If we get 113, if we get 131, if we get 162, bonus. If I see weakness coming in this zone, however, I will be taking profits. Right, I would take profits, and if it decides to go up from there, right, after that it's like, if you go and turn it into support, maybe I'll add some size back, but I'm not going to add everything back, right? Those profits you can then rotate to like other things, other projects. Rotations are going to be important. Compounding is going to be important. Buying and holding will make you money, but buying, holding, taking profits, and then putting profits into something else that then goes on to do another 3, 4, 5x's, that's where compounding's done, right? That's going to be very, very important. We'll have to keep an eye on that. We'll have to keep an eye on different pairs, right? But AVAX, like I've been saying all this time, not just here, but I was saying this over here. Been saying it for so long, right? AVAX looks really, really good. It looks really, really good. I've been literally saying this since 2024, right? So the first in the harmonic setup video, we got that move up, and now I'm saying it again when I've reloaded back into this area. If we look, if you guys remember this, okay, some of you have done this session, some of you haven't. But if you go to, you guys know what this is, okay? If not, you'll get to the session, don't worry. If you look at AVAX, if you look at anything, right? Well, you know what that means, right? That's on the daily. That is on the weekly. Linear regression never lies. Okay, linear regression is extremely, extremely powerful. That is AVAX. Aptos. Above on the weekly, right, of the candle, the buy signal hasn't flashed yet, but above the actual signal line for the linear regression on the daily, buy signal's already flashed. Above, right, you're well into your linear regression. Your momentum hasn't shifted to the downside. Your trend hasn't shifted to the downside. Linear regression looks solid. 3 days is nasty across everything, but the fact that the weekly and the dailies look good is more than enough for me. Right, so. AVAX, same thing, right? Weekly, linear regression looks fine. Buy signals flashed. You're red, but you're above the signal line still. You've not crossed back over, closed below, so on and so forth. Right? These tend to happen a lot before, big impulses. You see chop like this. Same with Bitcoin, by the way. If I show you guys Bitcoin on this, linear regression wise, we are going very, very strong on Bitcoin on the weekly. On the monthly, you had one buy signal. That was it. Never crossed back below on the signal line, which is why I've never turned, another reason why I've never turned macro bearish on Bitcoin. linear regression has literally told you momentum all this time has literally been to the upside. Even during that big chart period in 2024, you guys know what we're talking about, right? You had 2 months of red on the linear regression. This shook so many people out. This is where Germany sold their Bitcoin, right? But look, did you ever go below the signal line? No. Momentum was always on our side. The 3 months, well, that speaks volumes. That's 2 months. That's 2 weeks, right? Now, as you go lower and lower, there's going to be more and more noise. But the older your asset, the higher the time frame you're going to go to. Bitcoin monthly is perfect if you want to look at momentum, right? With weekly for actual entries on the higher time frame, buy and hold / exit entries. But that's AVAX. Looks good. It's not often that you get these, right? So that is AVAX. Let's now move on to Say. Say is another one just like AVAX. Look, last lower high that led to the lower low. Took out on the day, on the 4 hours on the daily, high low attempting to be put in. This is also another one that we know put a shark structure in, right? 382, 1.516. So again, we haven't even hit the 886 yet, right? Let alone the 1.13. So Say again has higher targets as well. Now that 2024 rejection on the daily / 2-day was quite nasty there, which is what's given us the drop. But again, look, if this low holds, you have literally got a smiley face taking place. That can take us higher. Now, can these be violated? Of course. But I can't tell you what's going to happen in 3 days' time. 3 days' time could very well be down over here. But we'd only know that once it happens. Right? What's happening right now is that the area where the smiley faces should be coming in are defended. So if these are held, then we can very easily push higher. We just need to get above the B on many of these sharks. If you want that 886 1.13 targets to be hit, just get above the B. That will increase the probability of you actually doing this. So very easy. There's your zone you need to be above on Say. Right, if you go back to this area and you see once again resistance, weakness, again you can take scalp shorts to the downside, or better yet, another one is if you come back and turn this area into resistance, you can take scalp shorts. 2 areas where you can do so, right? But there just isn't any point doing anything over here. You're not at a significant level. What you're doing is putting a market structure shift and a trend shift in, if that is the high low confirmed, right? So again, if we do this, let's go to the 4 hours for this, right? With the trend shifted over here. So you're at the golden pocket right now. You're at the golden pocket, right? We can see that. Where is it gone? There. There. Now you get above the 618, back over here you go. Above that, to the shark you go. Very simple. But that's Say. Again, look at Say. Over here. That's your weekly. Linear regression is telling you all you're doing right now is rechecking the signal line. You cannot be surprised if this starts green again and we start going to the upside. Okay, this is simply momentum having a tiny bit of alteration if linearly regressed. Daily is also a buy, right? The buy signals flash to above on the signal line. So Say looks fantastic. 2 weeks crossed above. Monthly is going to be below. Yeah, but these coins are too young to be looking at the monthly in my opinion, right? You can look at Bitcoin on the monthly because that's been out since like what, 2009, right? Say's not been out that long, so looking at the monthly on this doesn't really make sense. 2 weeks, weekly is what you look at really. Weekly is the higher time frame you look at these younger charts at, but that looks good. Look, last time this flashed over here, sell, buy, sell. We got another buy, and the signal line's being retested. If you wanted to, you could buy some spots, Say right now, okay, and then you could just. How would you do that, right? Very simple. In fact, if you buy spots, Say right now, how would I sell it? I would sell it if it got below this, right? If you lose that level, you definitely don't want to be holding on the macro. Just take a look. Go to the weekly. The same level, right? We've always identified. Same as AVAX. This is where your smiley face is coming in on the macro as well, on the weekly, not just the daily, on the weekly too. So if you get below this, back underneath your previous old consolidation range, there's no point holding your spot because you might visit these lows again. But as long as you're above this, spot here at least at a minimum is very easy to manage. Which is again why I'm still holding my Say spot, right? And that's the beauty with these things. With spot bags, you do not need to actively manage them every single day, right? You don't. As long as your macro thesis and your macro area is intact, all you need to do is hold. You don't need to actively manage your spot bags. All you're going to do is just, chop your portfolio down over time if you do that. Trading spot is not the same as trading leverage in that regard. You don't need to baby your trades with spot, right? Even if we were to get a flash nuke here, we're not going to be liquidated. That's the beauty, right? Which is why 80%, I right now actually think it's closer to about 78% of the challenge account is in spot, and the remaining is in swings. Let's say 75-25 split right now, spot to swing. So even if we have a flash dump, right, and we're not going to get liquidated because now that we're in the green, all the leverage plays are in the green should minimum be stop loss to break even or stop loss in profits, right? So we're not going to actually quote unquote lose any money. But even if we come back and let's say we don't make any profits on, even at the worst case scenario, none of you haven't moved your stop loss to break even and you lose the entire 25% you have in your portfolio, in terms of swings, 75% in spot is still there. Which is why I've not gone heavy on swings, right? If anyone's wondering why have I not gone or just swung these, I want to be mainly in spot, right? And then after I start making profits of this, taking profits of this, I'll put those into leverage, right? Up the risk, because it's house money, but not with when you're trying to like kickstart. We haven't pushed that boulder down the hill yet. Once the boulder gets moving, it becomes easy to maintain, right? But the initial push is the hard part. We're at the initial push area right now. Once that, once you push it and the boulder gains momentum, all you have to do is make sure it doesn't slow down. Just give it enough momentum that it keeps going, right? It's going to be much easier. It's going to explode eventually. But this, again, this for me is very, very bullish. This looks very, very nice. You come here, last lower high, let a lower low taken out, higher lows coming in, smiley face, please send it higher. That's it. Right? And what kind of targets are we looking for? Well, I've already given this in the old section, right? Say it's one of the OG coins, but right here we hit that 1.13 extension, right? That's a 0.566, i.e. you have a shark target 1.618 on the macro, could very easily take you to $1.10, right? This beautiful massive M shape, right? The macro shark, the shark 886, so on and so forth. The type 1, the type 2s of that, 80 cents, right? 84 cents, 1.618. As we start going up, we're going to get projections now. Primary projection is at $1.77. I'm sure we're going to get some sort of macro ABCDs, right? We're going to go up, we're going to get some sort of pullback. There's going to be a 382 that's going to give us 2.24s, 2.618s, 3.14s, 3.618s, so on and so forth. It happens every single time. But those are yet to come. Based on what we have right now, these are the targets. The levels you see, right? So that's say. Looks fantastic. What about SWI? Well, SWI looks even better. I don't think there's any comparison between these and the others. You've got that target definitely hit, right? We opened that in that jump, that dump stream that we did, right? Again, SWI's one that has not hit is 886, if I'm not mistaken. No, it hasn't, right? So the shark, the minimum 886 for SWI, I'll just be looking for a 1.13 because the 886 is too shallow on the CD leg. Right, I'll just look for that 1.13. But that is a nice candle coming in. Of course, this will look much better above the B point, right? Like I keep saying. But let's wait, right? Let's see. Because that for now, the daily candle is, is telling you that buyers are stepping in at this area. You're above. You're lower to higher. Standard deviation 1 value area high in terms of your volume-based key levels, right? You're back above there. Even if you were to have one more drop, all you'd have is a smiley face. Local smiley face. Last lower high that led to the lower low has been taken out. Just waiting for a high low to come in. We already know weekly is in an uptrend. So if both daily and weekly are in an uptrend, guess what? You're going to go up, not down. You're not favoring down, you're favoring up. Right? Remember, we are like surfers. We do not try to fight the trend. We go with the trend. If you're a surfer, you do not try to fight the wave. You're letting that wave carry you for as long as it can. Right? If both the daily and the weekly confirm to us that we want to go up, then who are we to try and fight that? Right? Just go with the trend. That's it. But again, here's your range lows to speak, right? I'll just mark that out. Long as your daily buy zone, mid holding a support for now from the past. As long as you're above this, you're good for higher. If you break this and then the shark is ruined, then you've got lower targets at the ABCD 3.14 and 3.618, so on and so forth, right? But we only talk about that once it happens, because otherwise, for now, it's a what if. It's a what if, right? But again, SWI. Of course, it's not a shock then that SWI is already expanded massively on linear regression. All we're doing is once again checking back to the signal line. Even the monthly on SWI, which again I think is too young to be using, but even the monthly is bullish on SWI. Right? Here's the 2 weeks. 2 week buy signal has flashed. You're now above the signal line. It's crossed. Weekly already above rechecking. 3 days I'm not really watching right now. Daily, right? Dailies on the buy signal again. The 3 days are the only one in terms of linear regression right now that are giving us sell signals and bearish flashes, right? Which is why medium time frame we're seeing these little pullbacks. That's due to the fact on linear regression 3-day wise we're on the red, right? But once this eventually goes back up, because it's going to have to cross back to the upside if weekly, daily, so on and so forth, keep the pressure up. If the 3-day crosses as well, you have generally zero reasons, even in terms of momentum and shifted trend to or rather fixed trend, to account for downside moves, right? So SWE looks fantastic, still in spot SWE as well, right? Added last edition was when we dropped below $3. That was free. ABCD got hit, radar range lows, free addition, right? But those Aptos, AVAX, SEI, SWE, these are some of the biggest spot bags in the challenge account. Ondo, add Ondo onto that of course as well, right? So if you now look at Ondo is another one. Again, that's going to look a bit messy, but what we'll be saying, look, if you get back this area, you have a macro smiley face. We've got that. Again, last lower high that led to the lower low has been taken out, and a high low is attempting to be put in right now. We might go deeper before the high low comes in, or this could be it. Lord knows, it's going to be way more obvious in hindsight, but what we are watching is the fact that the front runs of the liquidity trades, or the liquidity trades themselves, depending on what asset you're looking at least being hit. Here, in this case, front run of the golden pocket, right? 586 is providing you with support. So all we need to do on Ondo again is just get above consolidation range highs. That's what we need to do. This consolidation range high right over here, we just need to get above that. If we get above that, right, you're going to have some chop here because the diagonals are above you, but you flip this into support, you're looking for expansion next. You have macro smiley face, which is what we were waiting for. Right? Again, if you're going to take a hedge, like if you're already in Ondo spot, you want to take a hedge, you know, you take a hedge as long as you are below this, right, below your previous consolidation highs, you can go and take a hedge. Very easy to manage your risk for a hedge, right? I'm not saying you guys have to you know, be long only. If you want to take a hedge, these are the areas where you do so. But again, what you're not going to do is, in my opinion, what you wouldn't do here is you would think there's a definite chance that we drop down towards, for example, like 66 cents or 56 cents, right? There's no guarantees we do that. If a high low comes in here after taking this last lower high that led to the lower lows out, then we're confirming we're going on the daily from the left side of the V, the sell side, to the right side of the V, the buy side. We're looking for higher prices. Again, Ondo. Let's look at it linearly regressed, right? Ondo, buy signal already flashed. Again, what you're doing is you're rechecking the signal line, right? Daily, buy signal flashed, you've rechecked the signal line. So pretty much every altcoin looks extremely, extremely good here, right? Extremely, extremely good. So that looks good. That looks good. And anything else I'm missing? Diagonals wise is the same. You know, 786s has been respected. That's another thing on Ondo that could give you that butterfly up towards a $1.44, right? So we got that wave structure potentially here. We know bullish M-shapes have hit for this. So it's the same. The underlying premise hasn't changed between like a couple of days ago and today. It hasn't changed, right? There's more macro uncertainty as more macro news comes out, right? There's going to be more macro uncertainty. Of course there is. But this is why I just focus on the TA first and foremost. Because with this, I have a way to actually ground myself, not get lost in what if, right? I have very easy areas to look for hedges, very easy areas was telling me, should I be holding my spot? Should I be quitting it? Is the trend valid? Are we going counter trend? So on and so forth. Right now, the trend is completely valid on Ondo, right? The last lower high that led to the lower low on the daily has been taken out and flipped. The last lower high that led to the lower low on the weekly has also been taken out and flipped. A high low attempting to be put in. So if this is the high low on the weekly, again, Ondo is looking to go higher. Right? So we talked about hype already, right? That looks very, very strong. I'm probably going to close my head short. I'm going to give it a little bit more time to see what kind of reaction we get, but I have a feeling we go towards the 1.618. Right, so I think I'm probably going to close my head short. This is why I don't set limits. I completely forgot I'd open a limit for this. But as soon as I opened this limit ages ago, right? Where as soon as that said ABC, if we get the C, we're going to get that 1.2 to open this limit ages ago, and it was still open. So yeah, then I might have to close this. This looks very, very strong. 1.618 next, right? 45.74. Let's see what happens there. But if you are going to look for weakness in hype, this would be an area to do so. That's it. Just because this is your significant level. If you're going to look for weakness on hype, this would be the area to do so. Okay, so that's that. Next, let's take a look. What do we have? Doge we looked at, not yet actually. We looked at this in terms of this 886 hit, right? Same thing. Last lower high that led to the lower low, taken out, just waiting for a high low to come in, right? Again, if this holds, what you do have here is a smiley face. If it holds, right, that could take us higher. But otherwise, this is off the back of a macro bat as well, by the way, right? It's not quite a perfect 886, but that is a massive M shape. Don't forget. And you've already had higher time frame weekly smiley face down at those lows. These two boxes were given way ahead of time, saying, okay, we've got yearly levels here, split into two zones. These are two carriers to watch. So when Doge gets above this, right, 21.5, it just needs to get above that. When it gets above that, this thing is going to fly, absolutely fly. But you can see still the underlying premise of the alts looking bullish we were talking about all this time, which is why we position, hasn't changed, right? And also today, of course, Farcoin got listed on we went to Farcoin in a minute, but we forgot to mention that it got listed on Coinbase, right? The Coinbase listing has come through now. Completely new data. People are going to be seeing Farcoin low trading at $1.20. That thing could go very, very high, right? We see it's trending. But there's that. So let's look at Focus V2, right? Okay, a few coins. LDO, extremely strong, right? Again, you're above the B point, I believe, or you're fighting against it anyway. As long as you can hold that B point, you're going to be going higher on LDO, right? This is why I hold my spots all this time. But LDO, don't forget, this is again, last lower high that led to lower low on the weekly has been taken out, high lows attempting to be put in. Last lower high that led to lower low on the daily has been taken out, high low attempting to be put in. We cannot be surprised if LDO ascends from here. Don't forget, this is off the back of weekly bullish divergence, lower low in price, high low in RSI. Lower low in price, high low in MACD. Both RSI and MACD weekly bullish divergence. Macro wave structures, right? Butterfly. BAT. The 2.618, the 886, the ABCD 2.0. So much. And of course, what about the 2.24? I believe I've not marked that down. The ABCD 2.24 would be, down over here. We just about front round the 2.618, right? But the ABCD 2.618 was nearly there as well, right? Oh, sorry, no. This would just be the 2.0. For a minute, I got confused there. This should be a 382. No, that's right. I don't need another ones. But you get above this, you're above literally your entire PRZ. And again, look, your targets right here. Completion. This is now in terms of the batch, right? A to B. Your T1, your T2 primary projection, all on the screen. Right? You can also, of course, try to get your projection in terms of your butterfly. If you do it in terms of your butterfly, it's going to look like this, from this high to this low. And what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and just paint the entire thing red. Right? So there's your projection in terms of the butterfly. Right, so now we have loads of key levels on our screen. Right? So in terms of the butterfly, that's your first resistance. You get above that, there's your big one. So this becomes your first macro target. If you get above this, then this to this to this. Very simple. That would literally be a liquidity rate of this entire series of wicks lower highs. Right? If we were to get here, do we get to primary projection? I don't know, but $2, that is feasible. That is very, very feasible. Right? Pretty much a 200% gain in price if we get towards this area. I'll be completely happy with just that. Anything above for me would be a bonus. I'd want to see these lows get taken out, right? But if you get above $3.64, I really want $6.15. We'll have to see. OP, same thing, still holding those low areas, right? The last lower high that led to the lower low again, taken out, high low attempting to be put in. Yellow zone mid, flip to support. Devalue 852, flip to support. Right? Send it to the shark. Everything is literally doing the same thing right now. Everything looks very, very good. Right? Arbitrum, same thing. You've hit your bullish structures. Has this hit the this probably has hit the shark by the looks of it. Very close, to be honest, just about front ran it, right? This is now a bit shady because that's not a 1.13. You want it to be 1.13 minimum, but it's a raid. That's all I care about. It's a liquidity raid. So just about a front run, just a tiny front run of the 886, right? Shark's completed for all intents and purposes. So again, you know, you flip this area into a higher low, Arbitrum goes higher. Arbitrum is one of the coins where swing long on the challenge account, right? And if you're long Arb, of course it makes sense. I'm also going to be long GMX, which is the DeFi of Arbitrum, right? From these lows here, it might get raided, right? If I get raided, I'll be looking for this. If this gets lost, then maybe down over here. But for now, as long as you're above the mid of this white box, sorry, the yellow box, I look for a reclaim to evolve. I really want the 886 of the shark to get reclaimed on GMX. But looking out, if you see how total DeFi looks, then you understand why I've got a couple of DeFi coins long on the portfolio / spot, right? But again, loads of wave structures here for GMX, right? Cetus, now of course this one relatively weak compared to everything else. But like we were talking about, we get that 886, I'm in, right? Just a massive type 2, and that type 2 still be holding spot, and I'll also be adding to the swing long here, right? Adding a swing long here rather. If the 86 gets and you hold it, then you could be looking at a potential bearish bat back up towards, let's say, 44 cents. From here to here would be about a 375% move. Will it happen? I don't know. Again, I'm not entering here because I think it's going to go up here. I'm simply entering here because total DeFi looks good. I think Cetus will still be fine. It's under SWE, and I think SWE does well. And total, the risk management aspect is what's attractive to me. Not how much money can be made from here. Risk, you know, not losing my current portfolio is better than however much I could make in the future. Right. So this one is the if you get this area, that'd be amazing. Premium entry for Cetus. Yeah, maintaining the trend line, so on and so forth. So if we go to Focus V2 here, then let's look at all of these. What about LDO? Look at that. Weekly buy signals already triggered, right? Your linearly regressed candles are all green above the signal line. No bearishness. Momentum's on our side. LDO looks good for continuation. OP going sideways, however, is starting to curl to the upside, right? We're getting above. We just haven't got a buy signal yet. Right, 2 weeks also trying to get above. Daily flash the buy signal. Daily's going to be a bit more choppy. 3 days going to be bearish. Everything is bearish right now on the 3 day for some reason. I don't know why, but daily's already flashed the buy signal again. Right, above the linearly regressed signal line. Arbitrum, same thing. Weekly, same thing. Buy signal's already flashed right above the signal line. GMX, same thing. Buy signal's not flashed, but above the signal line. Right, above the signal line. On the daily too. Cetus below on the daily, and the weekly below, right? So Cetus could definitely have some more pullbacks. What this is saying. So until you get it back above the signal line, Cetus might still show some relative weakness. The daily's still up below, right? The 3 days definitely all the way down. Yep. The weekly's down below the signal line now. So Cetus could definitely see a bit more pullback before like the daily starts curling up again. So watch for that one, right? But let's take a look at a few others, right? So what else? Of course, we've got deep. You know, should we get another drop on this grade? Otherwise, you're literally putting in smiley face here as we speak. That can send us higher, right? So that's fine. Wall trying to reclaim some key levels here. Interesting. Front trying the 3.14, reclaiming the BAT 1.13, the 2.618, right? Still using some as resistance though. Honestly, I don't think I'm gonna buy like, you know, things like Wall, so on and so forth. I'm just going to be, I'm going to have SWE, I'm going to have Cetus, I'm going to have Blob. Those 3 are the ones that I'm going to be holding, right? 1 meme and then 2 like legit projects underneath SWE. But Haidao red today, breaking down. That's fine. SCA at the hop of the butterfly once again for a double bottom scenario. Again, if you can hold this, you are at a key level, but if you get below, then yeah, there's not much hope for this back until you get back down towards this area. So that's fine. So ENA, That's the next one. Again, I'm not leverage long ENA, I only have spot ENA. Okay. Rejected off once again the macro point of control. We know ENA absolutely hates the macro point of control. Just rejected off it once again. But it doesn't matter. We've hit the macro M shape, right? We've hit the macro standard, which is 0.5 value area low, right? The deep Garleys. So one could argue for, okay, that's distributive, and you could say that, but the key thing here is the distribution is not as valid in the sense that what you've done is actually take out the last lower high again that led to the lower low. Right, your weekly on the daily, your weekly last lower high, that led to lower low has also been taken out. So trend has shifted. High lows, if that is the low, the high low has been put in. Right. So all this for now is noise. That's it. ENA is going to be way stronger above. Okay, above 3680. It struggles very much against this level. We can see that's your macro point of control, volume based. Right. Above this, we need ENA to go and maintain above this on the higher time frame for this thing to absolutely rally. Again, if the weekly closes like this, we could see one more flush, right? One more flush before we go higher. I don't care. We just add more if we get one more flush. Because the macro structure, as long as that is respected, we are good. So, ENA. Again, if you look at ENA in terms of linear regression, buy signal on the daily, buy signal on the weekly, above the signal line on both of them, right? ENA looks good. What happened last time we got this? Boom. We're here again. Right? Next, move on to Toncoin. Toncoin just going sideways, right? Above the yearly levels. Although those are yearly key levels. But if you want a simpler chart, let's go over here. The same chart. I swear I recharted this somewhere. Maybe this one. There we go. Right, there's your simpler chart on TON. You are still above your previous consolidation range. Okay, right there, above the previous consolidation range. If you break back below this previous consolidation range, I won't hold. Why? Because now below this, there's a chance we go towards consolidation range mid finally. Maybe we finally go and rate that 786. In which case we'll be looking for the 886, and this is where I'll re-add TON. But as long as we're above the consolidation range, there's no guarantees we get this. Which is why over here, if you're going to take a risk, it's going to be here. Below here, you don't do anything until you get to this level. Hence why this is the area where you take the risk, right? Because below this level, it's very easy to know where you're going to cut. Because look what happens. If you turn that into resistance, chances are you go towards your consolidation range mid. 886s. There's two bad 886s there. But if this is the low, the 786, then the 1.272 is what you're targeting eventually. Now, TON hasn't actually shifted trend. The last lower high, that led to lower lows all the way like somewhere fucked. So let's go to the 3-day instead. The last lower high, that led to lower low again. Yeah, not here. So let's go to the daily. Just going sideways for now. The last lower high, the last lower low, one could argue somewhere over here, right? So it's impulse down, move up, lower high, and then down. So you have taken out the trend. You put higher lows in, so you are still within your like structure shift consolidation period. As long as these lows are not taken, again, TON can very easily do this, right? But if you go and turn that into resistance, I'm just going to get rid of my swing. That's it. TON is a swing, not a spot for me. Below there, I cut, and then I wait until either we reclaim or we get to this area. That's it. Very simple. Right? That's Toncoin. Again, if you look at TON, yeah, going sideways, not surprised, right? On the weekly, buy signal hasn't flashed yet. However, trying to curl up on the 2 weeks, monthly still down, makes sense. On the daily, buy signal's already flashed, right? And you're above your signal line. So TON not as strong in terms of like momentum, right? Not as strong in terms of momentum and structure as the other ones, but again, very strong in terms of risk management. That's why I have this in a swing long, because I know exactly where I'm going to be wrong on this. It's below that blue line. If that is resistance, I know I'm wrong until I either reclaim or we go down to the bat area. Those are the two re-entry triggers if the invalidation criteria is met here. Right. Now, another one. Metis. This is one I gave in the chart dump area. Okay. Let me go on to it. So Metis is one I gave in the chart dump area already, right? So if you look at the Weatherman chart on period, when I gave all those charts, I said, oh, these look good. Metis was one of them. So what we have is here, right? If I zoom in, I can really show you shark, shark, bat, right? So basically these macro M shapes from the left. Here, sharks and bats. So the big one's the shark, of course. There's the bat. The PRZs of those are here. And for the type 2, for the initial reaction that gave you the type 2 return, you also have a butterfly. 1.272 pretty much. The butterfly gave you a smiley face, which gave you a move up. That move up gave you a Gartley. The Gartley was hit. Double bottom. Last level high that led to the level low. Taken out. Actually, no. That's not the last level high that led to the level low. Not in this case. It is in terms of candle bodies, so we'll still take it. Last level high that led to the level low in terms of candle bodies. Taken out. So now a high low is being attempted to put in. Again, if you're successful in putting the high low in, you can see the shark structure there already, right? You're going to be looking to go higher on this. And you know, you can truly, there will be no argument that trend is shifted once C is taken out. Once C is taken out, maybe you do this and put another chop period in. But once that happens, there's no argument that this is shifting back into an uptrend. Whenever that may happen, right? But Metis. And of course, Fartcoin. Back at 135. So if you look at Fartcoin, what do we have here? Of course, the ABCD. We're all familiar with this one, right? You retested 2024 12-month seller zone high. It is for now currently support. This is one sec. Oh, that came in 2025, didn't it? That's why I was really confused for a minute. Yeah, that's 2025 candle. So the area where sellers were in control in 2024, currently being attempted to flip into support, even in the bearish like candle, right? We hit the shark 1.13. Right there we can see that. The 5.0 0.5 would be down towards 120 to 119, which is, if we get there, I'll size up. I sized up on this earlier in the challenge account because we have hit a 382. Remember, if you're bullish, 382 is where you want your bids to come in, right? So I'll have a limit order open. Actually, I'll have a limit order open for down here. Reduce position size should I go to sleep. Otherwise, I will manually enter if I'm up, if we get a 0.5 flush, right? But otherwise, this could literally be it, right? It's not exactly a 5.0, but what we do have is a shark down to a bullish retracement. Remember, shallow retracement. Golden pockets is where you want your reaction to be if your trend is strong. Look at that reaction of the 382. Coinbase has listed now, right? Just send this up, honestly. So this could very easily now just rocket up higher. So let's see, do we have any other higher time frame targets for this, right? Well, if we look at Fartcoin down over here, right, so this was the original chart. Let me just do a new one. Let's do it here. Just start clean, right? So that's the same one. For this one, I'm just gonna go ahead and just get rid of, apart from the buy seller zones. Fuck it, it's probably gonna be easy enough anyway. Here. There, right? Let's take a look. What do we have? We have a low. We have a high. We have a higher low. That's a 0.5, right? 2.0 would take us to pretty much $2.37, okay, on Fartcoin. Here. In fact, let's get an exact. It's not the exact 0.5. I might as well go for exact 2.0. So there. That's that. Right? As long as the 0.5 is respected, that's what you're going towards. If you get above the B, you absolutely melt up towards that area. What else do we have? Well, can we come down and put any sort of wave structures back to the upside? There is a 5.7, very close to a 6.18, right? So again, we cannot be surprised if, hang on, if I remembering correctly, for a crab, plus or minus 3 to 5%, so even if it's plus or minus 3, 6.18, that'd be 6.08, 9.88. So very, very close here for a crab, right? Slash a Gartley. 786 would take it back up again towards that $2.20 area. And if you get the extension, the 1.618 now, Well, that would take you. Actually, that'd be a bit too deep. So let's not talk about the craft for now. Let's talk about the Gartley. The Gartley 786 would take you up towards this region, right? Here, $2.19, 886 at $2.44. So you have a very nice PRZ somewhere around here, right? And you know, we'll pinpoint the exact levels another day. I can't be asked today, but it's gonna be somewhere around there, right? We have a wave structure completion area going up to us. Of course, that's ignoring the fact, even locally speaking, what are we doing? Even locally speaking, we are that shark we had. 1.618 extension got hit, right? Now I would like to take this in from a lower point, because if you can help it, try and get your shark between the 382 to the 618, right? If you can't help it, I still take these, because the original book had them as, you know, not necessary to have the 382, but the later ones, the 382 to the 618 restriction was applied, so a bit of both. But we know Farcoins hit a shark, right? That's something we're already aware of. Last lower high, that let the lower low taken out. We're just waiting for the higher low to come in. So anywhere between the 0.32 to the 0.5. That's it. A shallow retracement to your 5.0 retracement, right? That holds, we go higher. Beautiful. Don't forget, it got listed on Coinbase today, right? Farcoin got listed on Coinbase today. Earlier when I looked at it, you couldn't trade it, but it's probably tradable now. And again, if that is the low, and we do get a 382, then we know, in terms of ABCDs, what are we aiming for? We are aiming minimum 2.24. Let's just have some targets on our screen. This is now in case the low is already in, right? 382, zoom in, right over here. 382 is there, hang on, there. So 2.24 is going to be here. Your first target, $1.86. I'm going to go for exact, one sec. Get that precision. Otherwise it ticks me off. There, there, okay. So at $1.86 basically, right, first target. If the low is in, otherwise, you know, if we get to drop to the, let's say 0.5 for the 5.0, then we know we're going to be looking at the a 2.0 extension, which will be slightly lower. If you get above the 2.24, 2.618, right? $1.95. So of course we know if you go above the 2.618, the next one is the 3.14, 3.618, so on and so forth. But for now, I won't put those on in case we do have a stab lower. This will be discredited. I can't be asked to put the lines on for no reason, right? For now, I'll just leave that on. But if, you know, we get above the B, then I'll drop the 3.14, 3.618 on as well. But you can imagine, by the time we get towards the 3.618, once again, we're getting towards that $3 target, which we already have confluence with the macro wave structures, right? So things are lining up very, very well for Farcoin. Right, I did size up earlier when we hit the 382 on the challenge account. If we hit the 0.5, I will size up even more. Okay, you know, 382, 4 on 4, 0.5, shallow golden pocket, liquidity rate, shallow golden pocket, and then the 0.5. Right, but yeah, that's Farcoin. Very, very strong. Again, if you look at Farcoin, underneath this is probably one of the strongest. In fact, look at the weekly, right? You even right now you're retesting the signal line, or rather the average line on the linear regression. 2 weeks very strong, pulled up, right? Charts too young for monthly and higher. 3-day, best looking 3 days so far, attempting to get back above, right? And daily again already above. 2-day, buy signal flashing. And if this candle closes above and the next candle closes above the retest the signal line, then 2-day will also be confirmed to be, you know, momentum driven to the upside. Farcoin looks good, right? So, we've looked at a few, right? There's someone asked me to look at DOT. If you take a look at DOTs, I think DOT, not much has changed since last time. you're at the very, very key area. You've literally rated the entire range lows. Like, I think it's very, very safe to be in dot. No questions about it. Especially spot. You buy here, you just close below this wick. That's it, right? You know, you have wave structures here, M shapes. Eventually, if you get back above, you validate those M shapes as well. Dot, very simple. You just need to look at where you are. You've rated the lows. It's been successful. Last lower high, that lettered low low has been taken out. High low is attempting to be put in. So if that's the high low, yeah, that's it. Very easy entry here on dot. You just buy and hold spot if you want to. I'm not going to be doing so for the challenge account, right? I've already got a swing open on my main account, but very, very easy. At the end of the day, the main thing here is it's very easy to manage risk. Very, very easy. My entry is literally that one I gave you guys last time. Right? I've not added anything else to dot since then. But that's Polkadot for you, bro, Ryu. Nia, that's another one we looked at, right? So many harmonics, as you can see. Zoom in. So, Butterfly 2.24 regarded as support. Again, shark, targets higher. Last lower high, that lettered lower low, taken out, high low coming in. Pretty much everything you see is putting in bullish market structure shifts. We just need that high low confirmation, and that's it. But that butterfly, right there, that butterfly, the 2.24 of that, once again regarded as support. If you can maintain around this area, you're going to have smiley face, right? So Nia, again, wouldn't be surprised if this just keeps on pushing higher, right? Still in my swing long for this. What else have we looked at? Let's look at Pepe. The entry I gave you guys on Pepe, down over here. I'm still in my main account on this one, right? And what's more, again, remember this? Butterfly, right? 1.272, 1.414. That PRZ we talked about. That was the last entry that we talked about, right? You above that. Last lower high, letter lower low, taken out. High low starting to come in. As long as you maintain this as support, you're going to have smiley face. So as long as you don't get below, basically as long as you don't get back below this, 101, you're fine on Pepe. You hit the T1 of your wave structure, right? This one right here. From the high to that low. The 886, the shark, T1 hit. Again, if that is the high low, you're going to have the W shake taping you higher, right? The bat. So Pepe looks good as well. I'm not in Pepe in the challenge account, okay? I'm in Apu, I'm in Farcoin for the memes and the blob for Sui. I'm in Pepe in my own main account though. Already from those lows, right? We talked about this ages ago. Key levels were hit on Pepe here. Double bottom, easy to manage area for risk. Tia, I really hope we get 3.14. I cannot lie to you. I really, really hope we get 3.14 on Tia. Otherwise, either flip for entries or get 3.14, right? That's it. Tia looks extremely weak. Yeah, it's a discount, sure, but it's just no volume at all, right? So, you know, there's so many others. So, Apu, right? This is the other one we entered on stream. And why did I enter this on the challenge account? Because we ran this up in I ran this up in the past, right? 2024, ran this up. There's a very nice area we can look at for Apu, right? And again, let me go and find the right chart for this. I've got too many. The problem with having so many canvases is you never know where. Oh damn! No, I didn't just click that. You're lying. Okay, whatever. That's gonna have ruined everything around in a different order. Okay, so. Focus V2 is going to be here. Let's go to Apu. It's not this one, right? But these were 2024 plays we took, right? There's massive 886, falling wedge, so on and so forth. Massive gains made on this one back in 2024. The structure is very, not similar, but very nice over here again. Right, so let me find the right chart. One sec. Slave driver here, I swear to God. Apu. Not this one. Apu. This one. There we go. Okay, Apu. What do we have? Right, so macro structure now, right? Forgetting everything that happened over here. You have a shark, right? There you can see the white. That's shark, right? 1.05, 1.618, pretty much at the low. That's a macro shark that's completed. You have a deep crab. It's not quite hit the 1.618, but it's very, very close. For all intents and purposes, I'm just going to say that's a front run, right? There's your deep crab as well. So macro PRZ. Redoubled, right? Reconfirmation of support when you visited with a higher low. Beautiful. And then you move up, What did we have in this drop? Deep godly, right? Again, it's not a perfect 86, but you're like 0.003 off. Who cares? 618, right? That's a deep godly. Last lower high, that led to lower low, taken out on the daily. High lows come in on the 4 hours, sorry. Same thing on the daily. Weekly, of course, last lower high, that led to the lower low. You can argue is right over here. No, you cannot. One sec. Where do we find it? It's not going to be easy to find that here. Last lower high, that led to lower low is right over here. Taken out, high low attempting to be put in, right? So, what we have here on APU then is compression structure, right? We have very, very compressive structure, as you can see, just from doing this, right? And look, there's your exchange listing low. You've reclaimed that low into support. Look how low your risk to reward, high your risk to reward is here. At a very simple fashion, if you wanted to, you could just close this if it gets back below this wick. That's it. Or this zone, even. Right, if you get below this zone, for example, you know you're looking to get in at the lower line. So let's say you get below this zone, just cut. And just get in at the lower line or something like this. It's very, very easy to manage your risk here for APU. That's the reason I'm in this one. From the lows, right? So that is APU. Popcat, that's another one I want to go over. Whenever this in the video I put out yesterday, that I did in AR, right? I put in that. But if you take a look at Popcat, absolutely gorgeous, right? If you take a look at, why did I have this marked down? 1 second. Is it the daily? Yeah, so daily buy zone, right? Firstly, mid back into support. As long as the mid support, you're fine. Yearly, 2024, 12-month buy zone mid. Macro read, right? Support. Right over here. Right, currently fighting it, but as long as you're above that, that's it, right? That's support. Be looking for higher. And I swear there were some wave structures here, or am I tripping? Probably tripping. No, I'm here. 1 sec. There we go. Popcat, what else does it have? 886, right? So there's your macro bat 886 on Popcat, right? Similar to AVAX, you hit it sideways and then reclaim and go, right? Also, there's your shark, right? 1.414, 1.0, pretty much a 1.13 there, nearly a 2.24. There's your shark. So again, macro PRZ hit. And what happened on this drop down? You have hit a deep crab. Pretty much hit a deep crab. Again, not perfect, but it's nearly there. And if it gives us one more flush that actually takes the deep crab, even better. Maybe we get that wick down, right? We hit the proper deep crab and then decide to go up. But whatever the case may be, just understand Popcat is at a very, very beautiful area, especially above 2024 12-month macro read buy zone mid. Above that, very, very beautiful area, right? So that's why this is I've got that I'm looking to enter rather in a swing long fashion, right? If we can confirm the weekly to truly have closed above the 2024 12-month macro read buy zone mid. But there's so much. Right, house still struggling against that area, but as long as these areas hold on house, eventually I do think we push up, right, on house coin. Looked at majority else of these, right? Blob holding the box, blob flies when we get back above this area, right? For now, you have it. Look, the reason I'm in this, 786, 1.414, right? Butterflies. Again, on the macro, you're completely fine. Now, the trend on these isn't as strong as the other, but this is not a big percentage of this, not swing. This is spot, and it's not a big percentage of spot, right? It's only 1,000 in spot for the challenge account. So that's that. But you can see, right? The point I'm trying to make here is, in terms of price action, if we're looking at it, many things are actually attempting to break structure to the upside. Right? They're attempting to break structure to the upside. The stage is set. The stage is set for higher moves. It's definitely set for higher moves, right? All we got to do is not invalidate these attempted, trend shifts, structure shifts, so on and so forth. That's what we got to do. So many of these I gave, even Morpho, right? All of these Morpho, GFI, BSV, all of these I gave in the thingies, the Weatherman chart dump area, right? Now BSV would have been stopped out, right? Is what it is. If you took this one, but the area where I actually gave it, it was very, very nice, right? To actually enter. GFI. No entries, like I said, no entries until you are actually turning this back into support. We haven't done that yet, which is why we're safe from entries, right? Morpho looks beautiful. Last level high, letter lower low taken out, high lows coming in. This one could fly. If you want spot, right? You could do so around, for example, pivoting your risk around $1.49. Right, very easy to manage there. There is your order block. If you can flip this order block into support, you also have mitigated order block as support. The mid of that is currently being used as support. So you have this zone, for example, right over here, which you can very easily manage your risk around, right? But there's so many coins that look amazing. Drift, take a look. 886, still at the 886. Like if you want a low risk entry on Drift, here it is. You could enter here. Your stop loss is literally just going to be below the 886. I'd do something like that. Account for that historical deviation there. Something like this perhaps. Yeah, something like that. Don't put much. If you decide to take any of these ones, BSV, Drift, so on and so forth, these aren't high conviction bags, right? Simply areas where you've completed M shapes and you can manage risks. So just you position accordingly. But even from here to just like T1, for example, still going to be 187% move, right, to this zone here. So there's many projects where you can manage your risk. ICP, of course, we've already talked about this one. Look, you're flipping 2024 12-month buyers on loan to support. Crab would be next, 1.618, as long as that holds, right? So, yeah, there's so many that look good. So, what are the ones? So, what have so Aave, let's do Aave. Look, I gave you guys this at the low here, right? This is in the old section of the Discord. This is up still, very nice. I'm not taking any profits on this, right? Because Aave just it's not showing weakness at the T1. There's no point in me taking profits when there's no weakness shown at the T1. It's going to go towards the T2. We're at the T2 now. It's still not really showing weakness. You're above the 618. So if you get above this, your ABCD is going to be the next target on Aave. With Total DeFi how it's looking, we can't be surprised. Link gave you guys this down over there, right? Look, structure shifts taking place. There's your shark, right? The shark structure, so you can see 5.0 to higher perhaps, right? 382s. But again, Link gave you guys that at this low here. CRV gave this one of the smiley face. We talked about this here, right? We had the bat at the breakout retest of the falling wedge. That was the opportune moment to get in, right? FET, loads of M shapes, right? We gave you guys this over here at the lows. Cow, we're still green in this trade as well, right? Aero, like again, M shape still green in this trade. So all these we're still green in, right? Let's not forget these ones as well. Bearer, there we go. I'm hoping for that one more drive down, flush those ranges. If this holds, I'm going to be getting it next, okay? My next attempted entry at Bearer is going to be down over here, if it holds. Something like this perhaps. Hold the deep crab basically. Hold the 4-month macro read buy zone mid. If that holds, that's where I'm going to enter Bearer. And then, if you get there, then I'll put the targets out appropriately, right? But yeah. So let's quickly look at Bitcoin before we wrap up, right? Again, look, attempting to break back into value area low for now, right? Perhaps attempting that move up on that daily candle is looking good so far. Red candle, aggressive buying came in, and the aggressive buying here was rewarded, right? Because look how the candle's closing. You're above your value area high, you're above your point of control for now. So if you can get a back above here, no worries at all. But let's see how this builds up by the time the daily closes, right? But that was a one-off everything. We looked at everything. Alright, go back to Bitcoin. Much nicer. Imbalance is taken out on the daily on spot. Right, there you go. Again, above everything. There you go. Very nice. Daily candle so far. Honestly, if this closes like this, if this were the close in the green, that'd be insanely bullish. Insanely bullish. Absorption after absorption after absorption of the sellers. Injective's another one we're in, by the way. I've not updated this one in a while. But, yeah, that wave structure is where we gave inch, right? This one's one we're in as well. Locally, that looks distributive, so I wouldn't be surprised if they ran the range lows. Maybe they run the range lows, golden pocket, another high low, and then go up. That could happen. But either way, our entry's still safe, right? It's green. But yeah, I realize I've been talking to myself all this whole... Yes! Oh, Hoff's in the stream. Welcome, bro. Yeah, how you doing, bro? You good? Oh, let's see. Nah, it's my pleasure, bro. Come in, man. about to wrap up, but basically I was saying there's a lot of macro uncertainty, right? But I think many of these, including BTC, including alts, I think many things have, shifted structure. They're gearing up. All buyers need to do is not be pussies and defend. If that happens, I think we just send it. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm positioned for. Could buy me in the ass, it could not, but I got to take a bet somewhere. So yeah, this is what I was looking at, right? So if I go to Bitcoin over here, there's your shark. There's your shark that we had. So if I turn these off once, there's your shark, there's your pullback, and again, if you're bullish, remember in trend, you don't want the 618s, you want 382s first, right? If you're truly bullish, you don't want that deep value golden pockets, you want your shallow golden pockets, buyers to step in. That's where they've stepped in. That's your 382. Hang on, right here. Right, so the 382's been hit, and if they decide that's the low, they're gonna send it. Happy with it, that's fine. Otherwise, the deepest I'd want is a 0.5. Give us the 5.0 and just send it. That's what and pretty much every alt would follow suit if this happened, in my opinion. So many also doing the same thing as well. So I sized up on Filecoin. If you get more drops on Filecoin, I'll size up. I'm just going to size up on the winner. That's it. Right now, that's Filecoin, right? So I'm just going to, Filecoin drops more, I'll just put majority of the size up capital on that. Everything else, I'm just going to hold. That's it. But yeah, this has been a nice stream to look at. Yeah, sure, brother. Talk to you soon, man. Right, let's see how this plays out. Again, we can very easily get spikes, right? Especially if, like, Leo was saying, the attacks do commence, right? Obviously, that can cause huge uncertainty. Who knows? Trump might pull something else out of his ass for tariffs, right? But I cannot weave that into TA. I can only do TA in terms of what it is, technical analysis. So if a black swan comes in or something like that happens, then all this TA is fucked anyway. But we can't predict that, right? So let's see how this plays out. Neo, Ponzi was talking about lemonade. I got into some of that for you and me, Tom. Okay, yeah, I'll keep an eye on it, Leo, brother. I set an alarm up. Cynical as it sounds, I put an alarm notification on. So for stocks, hang on, let me take a look. What was I looking at? Let's go to. So this, because I saw Ponzi post it in his Twitter, and then when I charted it, it looked decent. Right, looking at this, the AMAs were squeezing hard, so I'm in some of this. And another reason I'm in this is because let me just find the right one. Lemonade. One of this is going to have. One of these is going to have it. One sec. Lemonade. Oh, where's it gone? 1 second. Too many canvases. There we go. Right, you're above the B point of the shark. So that E point is what we're looking at, right? 886 first, of course, and above the 886, 1.13, right? The usual. So lemonade. As long as you can now pivot your entries around B, right? You could enter here. If you lose that B point, just close until you're above it again. You can very easily do that, right? You can very easily manage your risk on this one. But EMA wise, harmonics wise, this looks very, very good. Even you could go and put 12-month key levels on, right? I can't believe I've not done that yet. But right over here, where you currently you're at a 12-month buy-seller zone, right? If you can get above the 12-month buy-seller zone, which you are attempting to do right now, as I believe, there you go, you're above the mid, right? Another area where you can now manage your risk around on the lower time frame if you wanted to. Enter here. If you start turning this to resistance, cut until you get to this level, so on and so forth, right? But lemonade looks good because above this thing is cleared for takeoff. Because on the yearly, if you get above this, now granted you do have this as well, which is your buyer zone, right? But the question is, this is from 2020. At what week of 2020 is it? So halfway through, that's a 6-month level, right? Yeah, might as well leave it on. So what I'm going to do here then is do this. So you have a 6-month buy zone above you. But, above this level, we can see you have room for higher, right? You're going to have some serious room for higher. So Lemonade's one. Neo, of course, Neo looks absolutely amazing in my opinion, right? The reason why I think Neo looks good is because of this, right? So let's turn on harmonics. Very, very simple. Neo, I've been watching this for a while, been very patient. I think if you're going to pull the trigger, building a bag here would be nice. Macro 0.5, 618, 886. It doesn't get better than that, right? There's your bat. right? There's your macro bats. What do you have apart from the macro bats? You also have your deep crab, 886, 3.618, and then there's your 2.0. So that is the hop of your deep crab, right? Remember, for the crab and the deep crab, the hop is the 2.0. So you've hit the hop of the deep crab, right? Over here, the deep crab 2.0, deep crab 2.618, which you're below right now, right? But you know, if you get above it, that's a wave structure that's been validated as well. And last but not least, at this level you currently are, there's your 618, there's your 1.618, 3.0, there's your normal crab. So you have this massive PRZ, which you can segment into zones if you wanted to, treat it in individual lines if you wanted to. But should you hold this, right, and I'm just going to get the targets for now in terms of the yellow. Let's say you validate the deep crab, right, and for now it's from that high to that low. Your first target would take you to $11, which from where you currently are, that is already a 209% pump in price. If you go to T2, you know, hit the deep crab 1.618, so on and so forth, 346%. That's just nice returns for a stock, right? And I think, you know, Chinese economy is probably going to boom. This, you know, I think Chinese economy is set to do well. So, yeah, NIO is something I'm building a position in. This is why I mentioned Baba, right? I mentioned Baba in AR. I habit of writing USD in Unity in AR. I mentioned this because of this. You had a really nice guard here on Baba, XABCD 618786, right? That was the entry on Baba. We got a 2x on the stock already, and it's still in the green, right? And that wasn't even the that was like the macro. Okay, if you guys want a really low risk stop, that's what I said. Otherwise, I said, like, if you just go and validate the 886, something like this, put your stop loss there, is what I originally said, right? But you know, stocks can very easily do this. It looks like, oh, it looks shit, and boom, 100% up. Didn't take that long, just a few months, right? So yeah, NIO I think could do something very similar. Again, NIO is one of those ones where if I go here, stocks, where if now we can look at the monthly, right? The monthly is pretty weak. The 2 months bearish still, right? The 3 months, so 3 months is actually starting to look okay. You're starting to curl over. Weekly, you're flatlining. So even if you're flatlining with linear regression, that's telling you like volatility just turned super low, right? Either you're telling me no one's interested in NIO whatsoever, or they're cooking something and eventually you're gonna get a move up. Because you know, if you want to really trade this stock, you need liquidity to flow in. Looking at this now, I don't see why they take it lower. I'd want them to take it higher instead, right? So NIO looks good too. Yeah, those are the ones I'm currently have/eyeing. And of course BA, because this thing's actually ridiculous, right? You're telling me, I'm sorry, I just can't get over it. It's like, you know, the airplane happened to crash when you hit the 2024 12-month macro reseller zone mid, and you happen to hit the deep crab 1.618. That's ridiculous, bro. I'm telling you, someone high up had a very fat short open on this. They probably paid off some of the security people in India, because you know it's India, they're gonna do it. Let's be honest, to just, you know, maybe not do proper security checks. I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, I've got my tinfoil hat on when I say that. But what's the chances, right? What is the chances? Bang up at resistance. Aggressive buying was not rewarded over the last few weeks. All of a sudden, just like, you know, bearish engulfing candle. If someone opened a short here, they're going to be massively in the green should this come back down towards even 177, right? So, yeah. But yeah, those are the ones. IQ, I'll take a look at that one. Oh, that's sick, bro. As an indicator. Nice. That certainly make it very convenient. Yeah. Have you? Oh, do you mean Unity? Let's take a look at Unity. Hang on. I remember this looking very interesting when we were last looking at it. Yeah, there you go. Ooh, okay, Unity. Yeah, I mean, I can't lie. This does look good still. That's on the verge of a breakout. It might chop around some more, but you're looking for this, right? I mean, wait, bro, Hoff, you see this, right? You're probably better. You're way better than me at not even just a little bit. You're way better than me at PO3s. I don't really do these much, but would you take that as a valid one? Because the way I saw it, right? You know, you've taken out your last lows. There's your accumulation. There's your manipulation. So now, like, you know, if you break out with this, you'd be in the distribution phase, right? For Unity. I was looking at this a while back, but this is a stock that looks very interesting, I think. Yeah. Yeah, this is yeah. So that's something that's your 2022 yearly levels right over here. You know, if you hold that, yearly reactions coming through. This is nice. If you wanna buy here, you can buy here, DCA this zone, and then if you get below that, just cut. Very simple, okay? Initial bids, DCA this zone should you get it, right? And then cut if you lose that or turn into resistance. Altogether, you're playing a 15-14% range. That's amazing for a stock. Or if you don't get that drop, you can always size up when these start getting flipped into support and they look like you're ready to break out, right? Hang on, let's see. Do we have any wave structures on Unity? Yeah, so that was the area we marked out last, right? There's your bullish order block. Maybe you come down, put a smiley face in like this. Right, if you get that, I'd bid. But yeah, let me go and... It's this one. Turn that off. Trend line, trend line. Where's the last trend line? It says I've got 3. Oh, it's the same. So... yeah, just do that. Okay. Wave structure wise, I don't see anything. Jack shit, I don't see anything at all. Am I lying? I mean, there's a 2.0 there, but it's not quite a... It's not quite a... Hang on, what about from this peak? Let's look at this on the 3-day. Okay, daily. I think I see one. High, low, lower highs right there. That should give us a 382. But if that's a 382, we need a 2 point. Yep, there we go. Okay, no, I'm lying. We did have wave structure. So we have a 382 right over here. I know it's not exact, but I don't care. Was 382 respected? Yes, it was, right? So we're going to take that as a 382. There. We're looking at 2.24, and after 2.24, 2.618. So the 2.618 would be around here, right? So let's go and put those on bit by bit actually real quick. So let me turn these two off. And then create a group of drawings. Let me just write that as AMD. That's just your order block right within the AMD, so that's fine. These are 12-month. Did you say Kathy Woods has this in her portfolio, Adam? Okay, so there's that, and if we do this, we could argue for a. You know what? Let's not just do that. Last level high, that led to the level low, right? 382. Okay, so 2.24 first. Let's mark it out bit by bit. So here is 2.24. 33.21. 2.618 next. That is going to be just past that. So we're going to have to go to here. Alright, zoom in. There we go. Settings, coordinates 21.06. Let's get that. Drop it to the B point. AB equals CD 2.618. Past the 2.618, we're after pi, right? So 3.14 would be after that. I don't think we hit the 3.14. No, we haven't hit the 3.14, right? So we've hit the ABCD 2.24 and the 2.618. So again, we can see, well, that's a front run, and then, you know, as long as we're above the 2.618, next shot is going to be to the 2.24. Either that or we go down for the 3.618 next, 3.14, sorry, next, right? That's going to be falling wedge, and this is going to be AB equals CDs. There we go, right? So this does look good, right? I still stand by what I was saying earlier, right? If you're going to enter here, I'll enter some here, and if you want to enter with the DCA is going to be within this zone. That's within the order block, and that is also representing the 2.618 of the of this. Even if you have a pullback here, you moved up and had a pullback, it's going to be smiley face, right? So if you're going to build a bag for the higher term, because I'm so used to crypto, like my mind's completely frazzled when I think about how long it could take for these to play out. You're going to be holding these for longer, But you know, you don't even have to have any crazy targets, right? Literally just a bearish backtest of this and you sell. That's it. Unless you reclaim, in which case you don't have to sell until you show bearishness there. But yeah, that's you. I'm gonna leave that onto the stocks chart. I'll keep that on the watch list. Thanks for the reminder on that. Yeah, TradingView is pretty limited. Pine Script Editor as well. SOUN, yeah? Okay, let's take a look at SOUN. What is this, if you don't mind me asking? Oh, there's SOUN. SoundHound. This one, NASDAQ. Oh, it's AI. Okay, let's take a look. Ooh, that's a strong chart. Okay. Is there one with more data, or is that it? Alright, let's look at those three. What the hell? Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, we'll go with the NASDAQ. I mean, they're both the NASDAQ, so what's the difference? Why is one changed while the other hasn't? Right, let's spin this off. Let's go with this one. Is this the right one here? $9.61, Adam. Okay, $9.61, yeah. Let's go with this one then. Beautiful, if you can hold this. That is 2022. Which month of 2022 though? Oh, pretty early on to 2022. Okay, I can take that as a yearly then. Okay, so let's start with 2022. I'm gonna do in black, right? So key area here already. We haven't tapped 2023. So 2023 levels have not been tapped yet. 2024. Below 2024 mid, macro read. So you're pretty much in the void in terms of that in this area. But as long as you're above this, I'd want to see this get above this, and then it can really go up. But as long as you have two mids here, right? But technically three, but if you look talking locally, you have two mids there. You really need that to be support. I can guarantee you've attempted to try and turn it into support, but you failed. Yeah, there you go. Tried many times, right? You just have failed because it's the mid of some very, you know, yearly levels, obviously. But if these lows aren't lost, then you do have smiley face structure coming in. In fact, if you do this on the 3-day or the daily even, it's good. I'm not used to the gaps, but realistically speaking, there it is. We have this to this, right? Even if you have one more drop, something like that would be fantastic on sound. So your line in the sand is $8.72. Again, you could bid some here DCA, or you could wait for that DCA, right up to you. But there's a gap. Maybe you fill the breakaway gap. Always bullish when you do that. Fill the breakaway gap and then go higher on this. What about wave structure? Well, I can see that's either close to a 618. Yeah, very close to a 618. So we have straight away, by the looks of things, that's a deep Gartley. There we go. Deep Gartley. Not quite hit the 886, doesn't matter, right? That's a deep Gartley. So you have a bullish structure on this. 786 would have been up here somewhere, right? So if you can go and reclaim your 786 as support. In fact, the 786 is right over here. There. Yeah. If you can hold that 786 as support, your smiley face around that 786 would make so much structural sense, right? Hopefully you can see that. Something like this would be amazing on sound. I'll set an alert up for this level. In fact, hang on, just general area. I'm really bad at that, so need to get in the habit of doing it. But yeah, that'd be amazing, bro, on sound down there. Looks good, man. That's a healthy chart. Healthier than most. Pair that with the fact that I think you have an ABCD here as well. Yeah, you do. You have an ABCD over here. Oh, that's beautiful. There's your 382. That is nearly a perfect 2.24 low. So that's pretty much nearly a perfect ABCD, right? 2.24 with your first extension, 2.227. You're off by 0.013 basically, right? So yeah, that's a completed ABCD too. So you have bullish confluence here. You have weekly bullish divergence at those lows, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, weekly bullish divs. So yeah, if the weekly bullish divs is to play out, one more drop would be fire into this zone. That'd be absolutely fire on sound. Basically, I wouldn't add wavy current. If you can be patient, I'd wait for either the flip or this, right? Just wait for a key area before you pull the trigger, basically. Get into the habit of doing that. But yeah, that looks good. So if the targets do hit, there you've just about front ran the extreme of one of them. So again, the T1's not done yet, right? Lines up with that mid from 2020, whatever this was, 2019. 2022, sorry, yeah. Above that, your 618 is again going to line up with your next set of yearly levels. Beautiful confluence. And should it go to new highs, primary projection is going to be at $36.39. Now, I don't know what would trigger that, but maybe they get acquired by something important, or they go some massive contract. They become like globally used. Who knows? In a situation like that, this can go higher. Or just like once the money printers are properly turned on, the Fed does quantitative easing instead of tightening, liquidity is going to be flowing. In that case, like, these easy to get for stocks, right? And higher perhaps in the future. The time frame is just going to be different to crypto. These are stocks after all. But yeah, that's sound, brother. Looks good. If you get this, I'd bid. Wait for the actual reaction. I won't set limits. That's just my style. You can set limits if you want. I don't tend to set limits, right? But reaction, the alert pops off. I jump on. I see. If I see the reaction I like, then I'll bid some. That's it. Yeah, no problem, Adam. Okay. But yeah, so that's some stocks as well to finish off this, right? So that was a pretty long stream. Wanted to do it a bit more in depth than usual so that I could really get my viewpoint across. How I'm positioned for the challenge account. The challenge account at its peak before this read yesterday from 21k, we were nearly at 30, right? Right now it's back around 25. I'll post everything later into the challenge account area. But hopefully, like, if my thesis is correct and we go up, then we can, let's see if we can get this, challenge account to like 6 figures, right? Why not? Let's see if we can do it. Compounding is going to be very important, right? To, I think, get us to that target. But we'll try our best, right? I'm not going to force anything, but let's see how far we can get. So, no problem, Will, bro. My pleasure, man. My pleasure. But yeah, that's that. Alright, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll end this recording here. Stop recording.